Questions in Actor Studio. Welcome to the podcast. Questions in Actor with your host, Laurent Pitre. Welcome, viewers and listeners on YouTube or Riverside. We have we have our first few people popping in. Welcome to the podcast, the first Wednesday night live edition with a wonderful casting director, wonderfully fashionable, friendly, fabulous. Who are you again?
It's Sergio Alvarado. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Sergio. It's so good to see you. Thank you so much for hopping on for this chat. This is amazing. I can't believe we're doing this. Um, Tell me about all, like, let's dive in right away. Tell us a little bit who you are, like, where you born, where you raised, where are like the first few influences in your life that end up, you know, determining the person that you end up becoming today.
Oh wow, that's pretty loaded. So okay, so
Big
my life
question.
story. So I was born in Peru, and
Wow.
then as a baby grew up. I moved to the States, grew up there until I was about 11. Moved back
Wow.
to Peru, did middle school there, and then we moved to Canada when I was 13, in the
Whoa.
'90s, and lived in Sarnia for a bit. And then we moved to the GTA. I was in Brampton, and my parents had been living there until but just recently that they moved to Niagara Falls. So Brampton, Toronto has always kind of been my main home for the last, let's say, 20, I
Wow.
guess 27 years.
Wow.
Went to U of T, so very very Toronto kind of boy, I
Wow.
would say. Yeah.
Wow, amazing. What a journey. My gosh. Like what did your parents do for them to go from Peru to States to Peru to then Canada? What was the
Oh
first
well,
few
my
things that they were
dad's
doing?
an engineer, but didn't
Okay.
work really in that field too much. We left Peru because of the terrorism in the '80s,
Oh my
and
gosh.
because my mom and I were undocumented in the U.S., we actually ended
Whoa.
up moving back to Peru because I wouldn't have been able to go to college or anything like that because I
Right.
didn't
Wow.
exist. So we lived.
Wow.
So we moved back to Peru, and it didn't take very long for, especially for my mother and I, to realize that we didn't want to live there. Um,
Wow.
so they looked into Australia and Belgium, I remember, but
Really?
decided
Wow.
Canada first because we still had family in Michigan. So we figured, if
Mm,
we were in southern Ontario, we were so very close to our family in Michigan.
yeah.
And we got it, and that's why we moved here. Lived in
Whoa.
Sarnia for a bit, and then and then Brampton, like maybe a year and a half later. So I bounced
Wow.
around a bit before, moving to Toronto on my own when I was 20, and have been
Whoa.
here, I guess, 22 years. Yeah.
Wow, you lived quite the nomadic childhood. Tell me, do you find there maybe is some sort of influence on the like person, but also, even as a casting director, you get to meet a bunch of different people. You get to know people quite well, and you're a judge of
Right.
character. Do you feel like that it had an influence?
Well, even when I lived in Michigan, the 9 years I lived in Michigan, I lived in three different towns.
Mhm.
So I was the new kid on in second grade,
Yeah.
fourth grade, and then seventh grade, ninth grade, 11th grade. I was the new kid. So I
Whoa.
never really had issues meeting people and making new friends because I'd be like, "Hi, I'm the new kid." Like, I always had an in to like make new friends. And again, I think I've just always been naturally extroverted, not afraid to talk people up either. But I
Hmm.
definitely feel like being the new kid so many times growing
My
up
gosh.
was a big factor in that.
Wow. So maybe tell me what were like the initial constants when it came to starting a new and fresh in different places. Did you find maybe arts in general was an early influence, or was film or television or theater interesting to you early on?
I mean, yeah, for sure. I was a kid that my mom had to force out to go play.
Oh,
because it
really?
would be a gorgeous day, and I would, just want to watch movies and read
Wow.
books, right? So I was
Wow.
always, um, I really liked just movies ever since I was a kid, and always watched movies way beyond my age than I should have been watching at the time. Like I remember being very young and loving The Last Emperor and Amadeus, and
Whoa.
like I'm talking very young, like I'm talking about like being
Yeah.
7 or 8 years old and watching The Last Em
Amadeus. My
Amadeus. It was
God.
my favorite movie as a kid, and I still watch. And it's still a movie I watch
It's great.
regularly, especially
Yeah.
especially since the director's cut came out, and
Wow.
there's like an extra 15 minutes almost of movie.
Wow.
But yeah, I was always loved movies, and I was the kid that would watch like the same movie like over and over again. Like Return to Oz was, an early favorite of mine,
Wow.
and God, I watched that movie. I don't know how many times, but and then like even silly movies like Three Ninjas back in the day, I used to watch that a lot. So yeah, I was always very influenced by, and I was a bookworm too. So reading and movies have always been a big part of me. And as I said, like my mom be like, "Can you just go outside for like a little bit and play?" So that was, and I never really had an interest in sports aside from swimming. Like I swam
Oh,
even
nice.
competitively in my teens for a little bit.
Mm.
But yeah, I've always been the creative type, and I've always liked writing and music and playing piano. I've been playing piano since I was 5 years old, so I've
Whoa.
always kind of been in the arts, and discovered photography in my 30s and have been doing that as well. So it
Wow.
was my one kind of way of getting into visual arts, because I was never good at drawing or painting. So I was like, okay,
Mm.
visual arts aren't for me, and then I discovered photography. So yeah, so
Nice.
music, writing, film, all of these kind of avenues have always been important
Wow.
to me. So moving into film and TV after university was something unexpected for me, but like it was just a natural fit. But I just never really considered it to be a career.
Okay, so tell me then, at what age did you start university, and where was that, and what were you studying at that time?
Yeah, I went to University of Toronto. I was 19. My first day of school was September 11th. Because I had adjusted my schedule so I didn't have class on Mondays.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, that
Nice.
year university started on September 10th, but mine
Uh-huh.
was September 11th.
Got a
And
day
so that
off,
was a
yeah.
crazy, crazy start to starting university career. And then, my plan was to get my Bachelor of Commerce and then maybe go to law school. Maybe I kind of want to become a copywriter, like work in advertising and stuff. I didn't
Hmm.
really consider film and TV to be a thing. And then I took intro to film because I was like, oh, I
Mm.
love that. And like, I didn't know you could major in film really. Like it was just kind
Wow.
of beyond my mind, where, you have immigrant parents that give you three career options. Um,
Yeah.
and I loved it, and I loved the people that I met. They were so, everybody, all the friends that I made in intro to film, many that I'm still friends with to this day, which is not the case with my friends that I was my classmates from, calculus and accounting and, economics. Like I couldn't
Uh-huh.
name you a single person I took economics 101 with, but
Mhm.
I've been to people that I took intro to film. I've been to their weddings, right? So
Mm.
it was just a different camaraderie, and so then I decided to keep taking film classes, and then I was like, hey, if I
Oh.
take two more, I can get a minor, and then I was like, if I take 10 more and do summer school, I
Uh-huh.
can get another BA. So yeah, so I ended up doing 5 years of
Wow.
university with summer
Whoa.
school, and I got my Bachelor of Commerce and my honors BA in cinema studies. But it was,
Oh,
yeah, it was
wow.
kind of like, yeah, I felt a lot of pressure to stay getting my BCom
Mhm.
at Rotman, but it was I knew even in third year that like that wasn't going to be my path anymore, and I just had to figure out a way to
Wow.
get into film and TV that I didn't know. Like, my guidance
Wow.
counselor in high school was never like, "Hey, film and TV is the third or fourth largest industry in the city. You should go to York or TMU and get a
Yes.
and do that. Like never got that, right? So I just kind of took a very conventional path, and the only thing I knew that I was going to U of T, there was, some, I guess, some parental pressure that I had to go to U of T. So like, my
Uh-huh.
high school years were very much like trying to get my grades good enough to get to U of T, and it was like, in retrospect, it seems so weird that my goal was to get to a specific university, not to follow a specific career. It was just this kind of
Mm,
like status thing
yeah.
from, was like these immigrant parents was like, you have to go to U of T, you have to go, or McGill, right? It's the only two
Yes. Yeah,
universities
yeah, yeah.
they've heard of.
The
So those are the
Ivy
two
Leagues of
universities.
Canada, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so and there's this pressure, and I remember I retook algebra in high school so
Mhm.
that it would be in the 90s. And I feel like I put a lot of pressure on myself, and then in
Mm.
university taking film class, I felt like that pressure was off. I loved watching movies I've never heard of, and then reading all these books in history uh, about film, and learning about psychoanalysis and semiology and all these other kind of disciplines, and connecting them to film. I just didn't know that was a thing.
Mm.
So it kind of really opened my eyes to what the art form was, and I really wanted to be a part of it. I just didn't know how.
Wow, amazing. And it's so interesting because you might be describing, if I didn't know you or what you do now, you might be describing like the origin story of an actor or a film director, right? In the way that you're talking about it. So tell me, do you feel were there moments even in your childhood or during this university degree that you were already sort of maybe getting the casting director bug, or
No.
artistically, or no, it was like all dormant kind of thing?
Yeah, well, I
Or
didn't know casting directors existed. Like I thought
oh,
maybe
okay.
directors,
Right.
cast movies. I didn't
Right.
know like the specifics of that world. Really, I just felt so disconnected
Oh, wow.
from it. I had an aunt back in Peru who was very involved in theater, but I didn't have anybody in the industry whatsoever. And also, growing up in small towns and the
Yep.
suburbs, you don't get that same kind of, it's not like you live in the city and a street's blocked off and a movie shooting there, and like
Yes,
it
right.
just becomes more real, and you're like, oh, a movie shooting there, that means people are
Yeah.
working on a movie and I could get a job doing that one day. It just never really crossed my mind,
Right,
right?
yeah.
um and I feel like casting discovered me. Like I always figured like, oh, I
Oh,
could become like a producer
yeah.
or a writer, but it was never I never really had a solid game plan until I was already in it.
Well, tell me about that then. So what was that event or moments, that led to you just getting into it?
It was very serendipitous, coincidental. I had a friend who ended up being my TV dad. I met him through the Inside Out Film Festival that I volunteered at, and he was the director in the reality TV world, and he had just finished the first season, I believe, of Canada's Next Top Model.
Okay.
And they were trying to hire him to do this gay wedding show for Logo before Drag Race was a thing. So it was
Oh,
kind of
wow.
early days of Logo. And he turned down the job, but they asked him if he knew any young queer people who were well connected in the community to help with casting, because they had to find seven gay couples getting married in Toronto within a 6-month period.
It's so
And this was only
specific.
the year after that that it became federally allowed to have gay marriage in Canada.
Wow,
So
my gosh, wow.
yeah, it's 2006. Yeah,
Wow, wow.
so he was like, I know this guy. He works in the village and volunteers a lot. And at the
Oh,
time, I
wow.
worked at a martini bar restaurant called by Santiam in the village. I did some
Nice,
volunteer stuff at the 519, which is a community center that has a lot of queer programs on Church
nice.
Street. And then I did Inside Out. So I did know a lot of people.
Mhm.
And they brought me in and they hired me on the spot. And this was 3 or 4 days
Wow.
after handing in my final like major paper
Wow.
at U of T that I was
Wow.
like, this is gonna dictate like my life, and then like
Yeah.
it never, it was never a
Sorta
thing.
went the other way.
And I was like, what? And I got this casting researcher job for it was called First Comes Love, and had to
Mm.
find all these gay couples. And then the line producer on that show ended up moving on to the original season of Project Runway Canada, and brought me
Whoa.
along as a junior story producer, which was my second job ever. And then I didn't really I helped out with casting on that show. I was more on the story challenge producing side, like as like the junior on it.
Mhm.
But I loved it. Like I was like I love the creative portion of it, but I also realized even at 23 that being on set wasn't necessarily for me. So I was,
Mhm.
even at that point, I was trying to find, okay, how can I stay in this, stay in this career path, but not having to
Mm.
be at work at 6, 7 in the morning ever again.
Mm.
But yeah, so that's how my career kind of started in the unscripted world, in between story producing, casting, and then I did some administrative work as a production coordinator, or production manager, a little bit. But I always kind of fell back into casting and the creative roles that I liked more.
Mm, wow, cool. So you began, correct me if I'm wrong, then in more of reality TV at that point, or
Yeah, for
documentary type
sure.
kind of project?
I would say
Mhm.
my first 5 or 6 years were entirely in unscripted, working in. I did reality
Whoa.
shows and documentaries, like finding subjects, and contributors for different kinds of documentaries. And then I
Huh.
did stuff like Say Yes to the Dress Canada and Food Truck Face Off and stuff like that. So it was
Wow.
that was kind of the focus of my career for a good chunk of the first 5, 6 years, and then I kind of forayed myself more into doing scripted work.
Cool. Wow. Well, tell me, like, maybe initially, what were like the first sort of lessons that you learned about casting when it came to maybe these like more documentary or reality TV projects? Like, what was like the audition process? I wouldn't even know what that looks like. I'd be so curious to know.
I mean, what we've been doing for the last 17 minutes is pretty close to what we do. So I
Wow.
interview people and get their stories, right? Whatever the case may be,
Hmm.
whether we're looking for, brides getting married, or people wanting to start a food truck business. And I've also done, people living off grid in northern Ontario. I've looked for people who had to find people who were downsizing because they couldn't afford their homes anymore, like
Wow.
seniors and stuff.
Wow.
So I've had to find farmers that with very like specific harvest times. So I
Whoa.
had to find harvest schedules of Canada, and then like figure that out and find farmers. And so it
Wow.
was very fun at the time to like every job had such specific things to learn. And
Ah.
I've learned about farming and
Yes.
fishing
Probably. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and agriculture
Whoa.
and space and dinosaurs and World War II.
Wow.
So yeah, so I've worked on all these shows and documentaries for that. So it's always fun and entertaining, for
Huh.
sure. And it's hard to kind of disconnect sometimes with whomever I'm interviewing, because I am still.
Yeah.
It's really hard because I'm finding whomever I'm talking to sometimes fascinating, but I still need to
Yes.
get the sound bites that I need, that because the producers and network are only going to watch maybe a minute and a half of this um,
Yeah.
45-minute interview that I've had with someone. So I'm like, I have to make
Whoa.
sure that like all those little beats are there. So you're thinking about sound bites, but also trying to make whomever you're interviewing comfortable enough to give you information and be vulnerable, and maybe get some tears and all of that as well.
Okay,
So yeah.
so it sounds like in a sense it is similar to an acting audition in that way that you're hoping to, capture some moments of authenticity, but
Yes.
also be able to get to know who they are, get to also, I guess, vibe check to a certain degree whether or not this person is going to be fun to work with or pleasant on set, that kind of thing too. I guess, do
Yeah,
these
for
interviews, they
sure.
get filmed kind of thing, and that's also what you're paying attention to?
Yeah, so there's all of that. And can you hear me okay? I dropped one of
Yes,
my
I know. I
headphones
saw.
and I was like, "Oh damn, can you still hear me
Yo,
okay?"
we hear you
And
perfect. Yeah.
I don't know where it rolled to. So now I'm down to just the one
Just
headphone.
the one. Do you hear us well? Do you hear me well?
Yeah, as long as my mic is good enough,
No, it's
and you
great.
can hear me.
Yeah.
Wait, let me see
I
if
hear
it's
you
just over
great.
here.
Do you find it?
And
This is the
no,
best.
I
We're
have
doing it
no idea
live.
where it is. I have this like little shelf of things here, and now it's gone, and I don't know where it
It's
went.
okay. You're sounding perfect. I don't know.
All
I
right,
it's
as long as you can hear me, I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, this is
Sorry,
great.
what was
I
the last
saw that.
question?
I know. I was just curious because, like, I was asking you about like the process, and it sounded so similar to like an acting scripted audition, right? And
Well,
except
it's a
for,
lot longer process,
yeah,
right?
that
Like,
sounds
the actors is like in
juicy.
and out, like, hey, say the line, here's a redirect,
Yeah,
bye.
exactly.
While with real people, like for like example, we did Project Runway Canada
Yes.
last year, and that was a good 45 minutes that we spent
Whoa.
with
Yeah.
each designer who we auditioned, and
Huh.
that was it. That was a particularly difficult process because we only had like 4 or 5 weeks to cast
Whoa.
that show, and we had to
Wow.
do these 45-minute auditions and
Damn.
cut it down to 10, cut them down to like 10 minutes to present them, and then they had to be cut down to like 2 minutes to present to the network. So
Whoa.
yeah, that
Wow.
was tough. But it's still, one of my favorite projects I've done so far. But yeah, it's a
That's
very different process because
nuts.
know,
Wow.
you're trying to get to know what they're like, but also what their story is and what their story points are going to
Ah.
be. And
Ah.
it's different for like a reality competition show and a game show and a documentary. Like the how we do it and how we approach them and how we deal with conversation is different,
Okay.
because we're just trying to get different things, right? Like with on Project Runway, it was like, what are their characters going to be?
Yeah.
There's, of course, there's stuff like what is their design style and all of
Yes.
that, but who are they going to be compared to the other 11 people? Um,
Ah.
so we're thinking that way, as opposed to a documentary that might have one subject or 3 or 4 disconnected stories that are just connected thematically, like
Yes.
living off grid in the wilderness, for example,
Mm.
or the example that I said before of people who are downsizing,
Mm.
seniors who are downsizing and having to get rid of 50 years of stuff.
Whoa.
And so that was approached very differently too, because we had to find 3 stories for that
Mm.
documentary. So you had to be different, had to have different uh, you know different levels and nuances to them.
Mhm.
But the 3 of them also had to be distinct, but we didn't have to worry about how they would connect with each other. Well, like on Project Runway, it's like we you really have to think about, like, how are these 12 people going to interact? Who's going to be competitive with each other? Who's going to
Ah.
collaborate with each other? Who's going to annoy them? Who is going to not work well in a team? So
Uh-huh.
there's different things to consider in these kind of formats, right? Like, kind of like with
Interesting.
an actor, like how you're looking at the lead actor and how you're looking at an actor who's has 5 lines or less
Yeah.
in a project. Like, how you're approaching them is very different, right?
Wow.
It's like the worlds around this person and these kind of complement the world, right?
Yes.
So it's a very different way of looking at it. But
Mm.
in a sense, yes, we're looking for story and compatibility and the vibe check, as you said. But it
Wow.
is a long reality casting is a much longer process than scripted.
Wow. I'm so curious then, because Yeah, like you said, like for a scripted show, for actors out there who have to audition, you're lucky if you get like more than 5 minutes, with a casting director on Zoom, or sometimes you don't even get to have that interaction with the casting
Nope.
director. You're just sending out a self tape. So I'm curious in terms of the number of people who like would submit for, say, an audition in comparison to someone who auditions for a reality show or one of those documentaries. Do you find the numbers are still similarly quite high, or do you find there's a
No, because there's
difference?
way, yeah, I would say like the reality shows that get the most applications are the competitive reality shows that don't have kind of special skills required, like
Oh,
the game shows, the Amazing
yes.
Race, Big Brother, uh,
Yes, right. Dating
like those
shows
shows.
or
Yeah, dating shows, like shows like Project Runway.
right,
It's a much smaller pool of, fashion designers or,
right,
people who are selling their homes or getting married
right,
or uh, uh, who want to compete to get a food truck, right? Like those
right.
are much smaller pools of people.
Hmm.
So and for most documentaries, it's like we're looking for them, right, more than they're looking for us.
Yeah, right.
Um,
Makes sense.
yeah, so we have to find, people and their stories, and a lot of the job is figuring out how to find them, because
Mm,
each job has its own challenges.
mm,
Yeah. Well, casting and scripted is the same, but I feel like reality is much more unique as to what the challenges are. Because
hmm.
in most scripted jobs, you put out a breakdown, send it to agents, and then go through submissions and maybe
Yes,
do an open call.
yes.
Well, with reality, it's like, we had to find single women who were getting pregnant on their own, through a sperm with a sperm donor, right? And
Wow.
so that was like a very specific thing. And sperm
Yeah.
banks and fertility doctors couldn't release that information,
No, they
so we had
couldn't.
to find other ways to find it. Right? We
Facebook?
had to social media did help a
Yeah.
lot, but we also went with reached out to a bunch of nannies,
Oh,
uh, and
wow.
and and and
The nanny
and they
network.
helped us find, yeah, and the nanny
Yeah.
network helped us. So yeah,
Wow.
so trying to figure out how to find people is
It's
the challenge in reality. Yeah.
it sounds and it looks by your expression that you really enjoyed that challenge. Is that kind of something that's drawn you to return that often into the more reality or documentary context? Is like this like abundance of research and like a time with the subjects or with the people you're
Well,
casting?
my casting partner Vanna Chiaveri and I, we really enjoy, a specific challenge. Like
Mm,
single women having kids on their own through a sperm donor was a fun challenge, right? Like we were like, how do we do this?
yes.
Um, and we've had to do very specific things like that as well. We've
Mm,
had to find um, indigenous girl hockey players. Like, how do we find that?
wow.
So like it's always kind of it is fun, and at this point in my career to be bouncing back and forth between scripted and unscripted, and there aren't many of us that do both.
Yeah. Yes.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Well, tell me what was like your first scripted shows and what did you learn by doing that? Yeah, like what did you learn in terms of like that hop into it?
It was I did commercials at first. I
Oh,
started doing
cool.
these I started doing my first foray was doing commercials with people with special skills. Like I did a whole bunch
Mm,
of TSN commercials, and we needed really strong football players, like soccer players.
okay.
And they weren't kind of available through the agency
Oh.
system, that they had to look like they were playing in the World Cup,
Oh,
right?
wow.
So they reached out to us, and we found high end football players, and this was kind of before like uh, Toronto Football Club and stuff.
Wow.
So, and we found a bunch of guys who had played professionally in Europe and Latin America and who lived
Whoa.
here now. Um, and that's how we cast that. And so TSN became kind of like one of my first kind of like regular clients doing commercials,
Mhm.
whether it was special skills or not. They just kept hiring us.
Mhm.
So yeah, so I started doing commercials, and then I think what really got me into scripted was a couple of indie movies, some short films, but it was really the reenactment shows that Toronto is so heavy on, that it was really how I kind of got started doing a lot of scripted, um, and uh, and still do a lot of reenactment shows. We're starting to
Mhm.
within the next couple of weeks. Yeah, so and we've done everything from the paranormal ones to the true crime ones
Mhm.
on Netflix to like
Yes.
comedy ones like True Dating Stories on
Right.
CBC. So they've
Yeah.
kind of
Oh,
done the range of comedy, reenactment, paranormal, crime.
yeah.
Uh, uh, so yeah, that's how we kind of got started. And then we started doing more film and more comedies, more and sketch stuff and more indie films, a lot of horror stuff. We do a lot
Mhm.
of horror stuff actually,
Yes.
but
Yes.
that's how we kind of, uh, I would say, kind of got started. Is really was like dipping my toe was commercials for sure.
Right. That's so cool because yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the mixture that you've done too with these shows like True Haunting on Netflix with one of my guests on this podcast, Wyatt Dorian, the incredible, the amazing, heroic leading actor that is just one of the nicest guys in the world that you know also quite well, and you've been a champion of in terms of him as an actor. And I'm curious too, like you're someone I've been always I admire that you support so many artists and so many actors. And like you said, it sounds like the people you meet, you end up sort of really wanting to uplift. Like when did that sort of start for you? Did that always sort of manifest as part of your practice as a casting director? And if
For
so, how
sure,
did that show up? Hmm.
and Wyatt is kind of a good example of that because I remember him auditioning for commercials for us when he was
Hmm.
much younger and he was not very good. But there was something, there was something
Shots
about
fired.
him and his just charisma and presence. I was like,
Yes.
if he takes some classes and stuff, he'll be great. And he did the work, and
Yes.
he took workshops, and he went to college, and um,
Yes.
and he and and he just consistently did good work. And when I was casting True Haunting, he actually didn't even have an agent at the time. Um,
Wow.
and they brought him in. We actually auditioned for several roles,
Mm.
and he didn't know at the time that it was Netflix, or that James Wan was producing it, was the
Wow.
executive producer on it, until he got it, right? And so that
Wow.
was like a huge thing. And I think he did like almost a month on set, like 28 days or
Yes.
something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then he ended up getting a series regular on Gen V on
Yes.
Amazon Prime, like not that long after that. So it's
Mhm.
like it's really, it can be really fun to see someone's journey. Like I love, watching Heated Rivalry and seeing,
Yes.
actors who have taken my workshops and who I've
Mhm.
cast in crappy non-union commercials that were $500 for the day and $1,000
Yes.
for usage like 10 years
Yeah.
ago. And now they're like in 3 episodes of Heated Rivalry. And it's that kind
Mhm.
of stuff that's really kind of exciting. Seeing actors that have taken my workshops or that I've cast for audition before, and seeing them in like kind of like big things
Mm.
like Handmaid's Tale,
Yes.
is like really, or Star Trek, the various Star Treks that have been filming in Toronto. It's
Mhm.
all really really exciting. It's one of the really fun parts um, about the job. Because I have so many actors that have told me, it's like, oh, you booked me my first job ever, or I got my actor
Mhm.
card because of you. It's like, oh, you were my first actor audition ever, and I got it, and it's thanks to you. So that kind of stuff
Mm.
is really great. And I've had, actors stop me on the street or in coffee shops, be like, by the way, like, I got my actor card because of
Mm.
you. So that stuff is great. So that's
Mm.
one of the perks of the job, in really seeing actors develop and seeing them take classes and do their short films and their 48-hour film fasts, and just do whatever
Yes.
they can to work on their craft outside of waiting for auditions to happen. And it's something that I feel so proud when I see these actors like really doing the work, and 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 reaching their goals, right? Because
Mm.
it can be tough. um and a lot of casting directors, you know you asked me before we started recording, like, why do you like doing these interviews? And I really do feel that I want to break this barrier between like casting and actors. Like, we're the same department. We're the same,
Mm.
we're all working together, right? So
Mm.
I really want that collaboration to be more prominent, and that's like, oh, we're over here and you guys are over there. Like, I don't really
Mm.
like that way of thinking. Um, but yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
No, that's a great observation, and I'm glad you're sharing it to like dispel this myth of like casting directors, like you said, being against you or being
Yeah.
gatekeepers or on some different team, have different interests, or they have their favorites or whatever like that. I'm curious, like, what are maybe some things that actors can keep in mind when doing a self tape or doing an audition for you that can just help them collaborate more effectively with you?
I mean, with self tips, it's hard because like it just
Yes,
goes into
exactly.
the wind, and
You're like, "Will it be seen? Will it make the difference?"
exactly.
Right?
But we do watch everything that comes in.
Yes. Right.
Do I finish watching every self tape? I don't,
Thank you for
but it's
being
not it's
honest.
it's not because I don't like it, it's because I do. Like, once I'm like,
Oh,
"Oh, they're great," I'm not watching the whole thing. I'm like
wow.
clicking the button I have to make sure that they're gonna be presented. And then
Wow.
I move on to the next one, and then once I have my selection, like, I'll re-review everything.
Wow.
Um, but, like, if you're not starting off strong,
Yes.
sometimes things turn around towards the end of the scene, if it's a longer scene, right? I'm talking
True.
about like longer, like, the 4 or 5 page auditions, not
Yes.
the one line commercials. I'll watch the whole, no matter what. I'm watching the one line. Um, the things that will get you to like, for me to like not watch it is technical stuff. Like,
Oh,
I can't see you, or I can't
yes.
hear you, especially.
Yes.
And I can't hear you is a bigger problem than you would expect.
Mm.
I always say, if you're doing any kind of editing software or whatever and you export it, watch it before you upload it. Because sometimes something
Oh.
weird happens with the export and there's no sound, or the sound is shit.
Oh,
So,
wow.
then we get the audition, there's no sound, and if I have to present today, there's no time for me to
Too
reach
late?
out to your agent and ask for you to send it in again, to re-export it and
Oh.
upload it again. It's like, it's dead. It's gone. You missed your chance. So that's what I would say. And in terms of how to get on my good side with the self tape, it's really, number one is just following the instructions. You have no idea
Mm.
how many people don't follow the
Yeah.
instructions, and I feel there's a lot of fake information out
Huh.
there that either acting coaches or fellow actors give each other. Is like, oh, no matter what, you have to do this, or no matter what, you have to do this. And no matter what, you need to follow the instructions that we give you. Because, like, casting
Uh-huh.
directors, we have different preferences, we have different organizational systems, we have different ways that we're working with our directors and our clients. So if we're asking for a front slate versus a tail slate, even though some workshop that you did 5 years ago told you to always do tail slates, do a front slate
Uh,
if I'm asking you for a front slate, right?
yes.
If it says one take, do one take. If it says two takes,
Yes.
Do a second take
T-
only if you're going to make it different. I don't want to see nuance in your
Mm.
second take. I want to see a different approach, right?
Ah.
Um, if it says medium shot or medium close up or medium wide, and you don't know what that means, look it
Google.
up and frame and frame it that way, because
Yes.
like, those are specific instructions. Um, so I would say that's the best way to get on my good side.
Mm.
If we're doing something over Zoom or in person, I love the actors that are really asking questions like, can
Mm.
I move around? Can I use the space? Like, am I out of frame here? Um, right? Like I love when an actor kind of takes charge of the room, uh,
Mm.
and like it just, instead of just like planting themselves in one place, asking if, how they can block and stuff.
Mm.
And we'll always let you know, so like, actually just stay right there so the camera's on your face the whole time, or be like,
Yep.
yeah, use the room, but make sure you're always cheating to camera.
Right.
So yeah, I like that a lot, and also like if you have any kind of questions about the character story, because we totally understand that you have these 3 pages and maybe a log line of this synopsis of whatever it is you're working on, and maybe not a lot of information, unless it's, a returning series,
Mm-hmm.
right? If it's the first season of a series or a movie, you don't know anything
Mm-hmm.
about it other than the sides that you have.
Right.
So I don't think you should ever be afraid to ask us, like, hey, so what's who are these two people? How are they connected? Like that,
Yes.
we love that, because we that can give, this some more dimension and depth to your performance on the spot.
Mm-hmm. And I think as a younger actor, I think again because you're so nervous and you want to make a good impression, there's this feeling sometimes when jumping into a live audition that you're like everything has to go quick, you know what I mean? You see the assistants going like okay, like getting stressed and like trying to keep things on time, and they're like go go go. And so when you come in, there's almost, I think as Canadian actors, it's more Canadians who are more apologetic about it, that are like, oh, I'll try and do this as fast as I can. I'm so sorry for showing up by, like that kind of
Yeah,
thing. But like American actors will be like, this is my time. I came here and this is what I'm going to
yeah,
do. So in that approach, it seems like you like uh people who could come in, take ownership of the space and of their audition, take the time that they
yeah,
have, ask questions to collaborate with you to show, oh, this person is like going to be a
yeah.
collaborator on set, someone that's
Especially in the
asking good
callback.
questions. Oh, and the callback especially. Okay.
Yes, I have yet to do first round of auditions in person since COVID.
Right.
I've only
Right.
done
That's
callbacks in
true.
person.
That makes sense.
First round
Okay.
of auditions, we're just trying to get our day in. To be honest, like
That makes
we're
sense.
just
Yeah.
trying to get our day in and get all of our actors through.
Yes.
And then the fun part's really the callbacks, where we can
That's
really
cool.
collaborate
Have
and
a
work with
conversation.
everybody. Yeah.
Right. Cool.
And like,
Okay.
don't worry about delaying the day. It's the clients
Yeah.
and the directors who are delaying the day. It's not the
Yeah.
actors. So yeah.
Yes, true. Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that that applies more oftentimes like the only type of usual now first auditions in person are commercials. And like you said, there's a lot of delay because there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen kind of thing, like you said, with
Yeah.
lots of clients, lots of directors, lots of everyone who wants to like put some things in input. But like you gotta see like so many people because it's a commercial, because there's a little more budget. They usually have they want to see like give us a
Way
hundred
more people making
actors
decisions. Yeah.
for like one guy who's gonna take a bite of the product, So like, but again, would you still at least give the advice of go in and take your time? Like that doesn't mean like slow it down, but like go in, ask if you
Yeah.
can make a choice or
If
make
you
the
have a
choice,
question, ask it.
ask the
Yeah.
question. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
great.
Ask it. Like if you don't know what the tone is,
Yeah.
like that's one quick question. It's like, is this campy? And they're like, no,
Mm,
no, no. It's more understated comedy.
yeah.
It's like, oh, and
Okay. Cool.
that's good. And sometimes we'll be like, you do however you want to do it, and then we'll see how it works, right?
Mm.
Because if there's something I've learned about from a lot of directors I've worked with, is they don't know what they're looking for until they see it, right? So yeah,
Yeah, that's a good
some
note. Yeah.
directors like know what they want and what they're looking for, and it's like, that's it, that's him, cast him. And then other
Yeah.
ones are like, I don't know, I'll when somebody does something I wasn't expecting, then that's that's who I want. But yeah,
Mm.
you just don't know.
Mm.
You just don't know.
I love that. That's so cool. I'm curious because, like, again, and sorry to bring it back to True Haunting, but I'm curious with that process because it was a mixture of like real people interviews and
Mhm.
with the actors, and I thought it was one of the first times I saw that kind of a show done so well, where the actors did look like their characters to a certain degree, but also were really incredible actors. And like it was like almost like acting level at the level of like Stranger Things, even with that vibe and that time
Yes.
period. And yet also the interviews felt super grounded. So tell me about that process. Were you involved also in the research behind those interviews or that kind of thing?
No.
Or you were more there for the actors who are
Yeah.
then reenacting
So these reenactment shows, we call them docudramas. We
docudramas?
came in once the main interviews had been done. So we
Oh,
get this
wow.
research package with the
Oh,
photos of everyone, right?
okay,
Because they don't
cool.
write the script until they do the interview. So the process kind of like they write the
Oh,
interviews, then they kind of write a beat sheet, and then they story kind of start story editing the interviews to create um, it changes a lot in post, but they
yes.
kind of create a storyline, and then that's how they figure out how to
Wow.
write the
That's
dramatic
wonderful.
scenes in between the interviews. And that's
Ah,
how, and it's only at that point when they know what the roles are going to be and how big they're going to be, that casting
okay.
comes in. So we
Okay.
knew I needed, there's like four main boys, three main girls, and then a few other older adult characters, and then the ghost.
Mhm.
And I didn't really have we didn't really have full scripts when we started.
Whoa.
We just had like photos and what their vibe was like, and then I got clips of their much older selves being interviewed, because this all happened in the 80s, right?
Yes.
So they're all 19, 20, but they're all uh, pushing 50
Yeah.
now. So we still wanted their vibe to feel like their vibe in the interviews at 50, but they
Yes.
had to look like their photos. And in some cases, there was some film and video from the 80s,
Wow.
and that had to match, right? And
Wow.
and there were uh, some hair bleaching and some
Wow.
perms that had to
Yes.
happen, but it was
Right?
I am very proud of the casting on True Haunting. My
Yes.
partner Vantage Very and I were like, we both love James Wan, and there was this pressure of like,
Mm.
this is a James Wan film. It's like, we love The Conjuring and Saw and
Mhm.
Annabelle, um and when it does feel a lot like The Conjuring,
Yeah.
right? And we had these two different stories of in True Haunting. One story was 3 episodes, the other one was two, and there was, finding these really strong actors who looked like these real people,
Yeah.
um was a different pressure than we've had in many other reenactment shows that we've done, where the actors are doing B-roll. There's a lot of back of heads and hands, um and more kind of like artistic kind of B-roll.
Mhm.
This was full scene work.
Mm.
So there was a lot of pressure on the young cast, especially. And Wyatt Dorian, who's like in almost every scene. I think there's maybe two or three scenes in the whole
Yeah.
thing that he's not in. And then the rest of the cast were like pretty prominent too.
Yep.
So, and we did several rounds of self tapes, and then we did in person chemistry reads. And it was great to have the time to do that.
Mm.
Like, they really gave us time to do
Nice.
several rounds of auditions. There were a lot
Wow.
of actors that we auditioned for several roles, and then we did in-person callbacks for three of the leads, and uh,
Okay.
and they were chemistry reads, right? So they were acting
Huh.
off of each other. We really wanted to make sure that the main character and his best friend and his female best friend crush, that their chemistry was solid. So that's
Mm.
why that we it was nice to have the time and money to do that,
Mm.
even though, like, usually reenactment shows don't have the budget that True Haunting does. True Haunting had a very, very
Got that
nice
nice
budget for
Netflix
casting
money.
and get the Netflix money, but also, like, we weren't casting 2 weeks before they were starting to shoot,
Oh,
right? Like,
nice.
we had some
Time
time
and
to,
money. Yeah,
yes,
that's nice. That's
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah, and that and you see the results, right? You see
Yes,
that's like,
100%.
there's like, I posted on my Instagram, like, the side by sides of the real people and actors, and so many
Mm.
people commented, like, oh my god, like seeing them all together as opposed to the on the show is
Yeah.
a different impact, because, like, when you're watching the show, sometimes it goes from the young person's photo to the actor,
Yes.
but not maybe like all of them as the groups. I had, like, all of them side by side, and
Mm, nice.
it's, whenever we're doing the reenactment shows, and on my Google Doc where we have, like, our casting list, we always have the original photo of the person and then the actor's photo next to it, and so I was like, okay, yeah, we did a good job, this is good, they look like the person, yeah, and the vibe is more important than anything sometimes.
Mm, okay, yeah, that's what I was gonna ask too, because that's great to hear. Because yeah, it sounds like vibe is a little more important, even though like you said, like a look can be adjusted, right? So like if they're not
Yeah,
exactly right hair color wise or maybe facial features, things can be adjusted as long as like they understand the heart of this
yeah,
person, the way they are,
yeah,
and their overall vibe. That's really really cool. So, we have some viewers, we have some listeners. So if you guys
right,
have any questions, please pop them in the chat. I think that's how it's going to work. Please ask your questions. If not, I'll continue asking these. Thank you for being here. But Sergio, I'll ask a follow up for that one. I'm just curious, like with maybe True Haunting or with other of the scripted or unscripted shows that you've done, do you find that intuitively early on in the process you have an inkling that then shows up as that final choice, like for example like Wyatt going through like the different kind of rounds, like do you always like consistently see him sort of coming out as like, oof, I really think it's him, but we have to check. Oh, I really think it's him still, we'll have to check. What's that process like being on that side?
yeah. It's not a science, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I do pride myself in feeling that I have good instincts and intuition.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes you need to see it, and sometimes things are unexpected, right?
Mm.
Sometimes, uh, sometimes they're like, let's see if you can do this, and you re-audition somebody sometimes way later on. I
Mm.
did this sketch show um, called The Dessert on Crave.
Oh,
One of the
okay.
biggest jobs we've done. It was like 100, 115, 120 actors in 6 episodes.
Whoa.
It was a lot. It was a lot to do. But they shot it in 3 different blocks, and there were actors that I auditioned for the first block that didn't fit the sketches that we were doing, but then we brought.
Mm.
I was like, I really like them. This is a totally different vibe than these sketches. Um, so let's see what they can do,
Mm.
and then they were great, and then they get cast, right, and there was a couple of cases where the producers really liked somebody's audition
Mhm.
but cast somebody else, and then
Mm.
3 months later when they were doing the next block, they were like, oh, don't audition that role, cast this person who we didn't cast for the other role, and
Oh,
we would just
wow.
send them an offer.
Whoa.
So something that happens all the time, right? Like,
Mm.
you can get cast for something that you didn't audition for, but you audition for another role in an earlier episode, right? So
Mm.
you just so s- sometimes, I bring you in for something, and without even knowing, I've already cast you. I've cast you in the
Yes.
future without
Yeah.
knowing, right? Because the producer and director was like, oh, remember that person, let's cast him for um for this role. We don't need to audition for that role.
Mm.
And that happened on The Dessert, and it's happened for me on See No Evil and Haunted Hospitals, and even in True Dating Stories. Um, so that kind of stuff happens a lot. So you always need to feel that you're not necessarily auditioning for a specific role. You're just kind of like might be doing generals for whatever that show is, you know. So
Yeah, yeah.
and TV has that luxury that we're casting for such a long time, as opposed to a film, which is, we're casting everybody at once.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so it sounds like when you're auditioning, it's not, and I seem to have developed this belief too. When it comes to an audition, you're not. It's not a job interview for one job. This is the job, right? Like you go in, you do a good job, you've prepared your thing, you give it your all, and you let go of the result in that sense, right? Like, because what's more
Yeah.
important is to do a good audition so the casting director is like, oh wow, like that was right. But like maybe you don't look like the part, maybe like you like your vibe is not quite right, but it's so perfect for, like you said, that next season, that one character that, oh, that actually would be a better fit. So tell me, like, again, maybe some advice when it comes to actors, like how like maybe even like in terms of your workshops, what are like some things that you teach actors to hold on to when it comes to not only the audition but their career or their mindset when it comes to casting?
Well, I always tell people not to hold on to anything. Like, leave the
Mm,
audition and like forget about it. Like, pretend it's gone. Pretend you didn't get it, and move on to the
yeah.
next thing, because it's just so much pressure to keep thinking, oh, did I get it? Did I get it? Did I get it?
Mm,
And like, I don't know, it's hard. I feel like we understand that you all feel a lot of pressure.
mhm,
Um, but if you can just like let go, right, and be like,
mm.
something else will turn up. Because we
Yeah.
keep like, if you audition for me self tape or even in person, like I keep track, like the systems that we use, whether it's Casting Workbook or Breakdown Express or what you guys call Actors Access, it's the same thing.
Yes.
It keeps a history. Like I can click on Yulana, and it'll have a little gold star. And if it has a gold
Oh.
star, it means I've auditioned you before. And I
Oh,
can click on that
wow.
gold star, and it'll show me the
See all
history,
the
and it'll
oh,
show me
wow.
everything you've auditioned for before, and it'll
Whoa.
even show me every time I've requested a self tape and you didn't send one in. So it keeps track of
No
all
way.
of that. Yeah.
Wow. Wow, okay, that's so cool. Wow.
So
So
yeah,
you
so we keep track of your history with
wow.
us. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so that's interesting because I think a lot of actors too sometimes say they're like waiting, not waiting, 'cause I don't, I'm not a fan of waiting, but like when it feels like they haven't had an audition for a certain casting director, or like you said, to pop into the mind of a director or producer, what are some things that you recommend actors do while they're quote unquote when they've let go of something? How do they keep the ball rolling? What are some things that you admire in actors that keep the ball rolling? Some projects or skills
Oh,
or classes, like what is it like that you're like, oh, that guy's doing it right?
yeah. Keep the training going. Keep the training
Mm,
going. It's like I don't think you should depend on what I think it happens a lot for people who have degrees in acting and theater, and they feel like they don't need to keep training.
yes.
But we love seeing on resumes that you did have done this and this, and oh, you did stunts, or you did improv at Second City, or you have a dialect coach for American neutral accent, which is really really important these days.
Yep.
We like seeing like those things kind of popping up, and also casting. Don't miss, if you see any casting director having a workshop, do it, whether you feel like you need it or not. Especially if it's a casting director who you haven't seen, or you haven't met before. Like, I'm not going through resumes for tiny roles, but for principal, like large roles, I am going through resumes while I'm making selection.
Mm. Hmm. Okay, yeah, that's beautiful. Um, Maybe let's like step back out of the acting and career questions and ask what's like your favorite part of your day as a person? Like what do you love to do other than this beautiful profession of casting directing?
Well, I have a kitten. I adopted a little cat in December.
Yes.
His name is Gustavo. He's asleep just off
Oh,
camera over there.
I love it.
But he's a precious little guy. I've only had him for 2 months, but on his third day with me, he climbed on my face and started kissing me right here and clawing me right here.
Oh.
So I think that cemented our father son bond. But yeah, that's my favorite part of my day. I love a good cup of coffee. I'm trying to practice piano at least a little bit every day. I spent 20 years basically not playing it, and now I have
Mm.
my childhood piano back as of last year,
Oh wow.
and I'm trying to play a little bit, some classical,
Wow.
some movie stuff, some Wicked, some show tunes. So I try to do a little bit
Wow.
every day, but yeah, I guess it's where when I like to do it in the middle of my day too. Like
Oh cool.
I'll work for a few hours, play some piano, make some lunch, and get back to work. I feel like it helps just neutralize my brain. Yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful. So do you find you're more of a private performer slash artist, or do you find yourself also doing some of the like what actors do of putting themselves out there in that kind of way? Do you find yourself doing that
I mean,
occasionally?
I like a good karaoke night, but I haven't played piano in public.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no.
Really? Never.
Like recitals and stuff, but I've never. There's only once that I played at an open mic that a friend
Uh-huh.
was like, "Hey, can you just play these four chords over and over?" And I was like, "Okay." So and I'm like, "I can do that. I can remember how to do that."
Uh-huh. But never
Yeah.
like you by yourself going at the open mic and playing a little sonata or something like that?
No, nobody wants to hear Michael Nyman or Glass or anything at an open mic. Yeah, no
Yes,
way.
they do. That's
Some
so
Strauss, some
cool.
Bach. Yeah, no way, no
Throw
way.
some Bach on there, man. That's so cool. That's so cool. I love that. Tell me, what does like what does piano or music give you that you feel fills your soul in a different way than like casting, directing, and that kind of stuff?
I think with piano, it's the progress of it, right? Like
Mm,
struggling through a new piece and then having it memorized, right? Like that
mm,
kind of full transition, that
mm.
full arc of like I can't get through this song, and then
Yes.
being able to just like sit and play it like you were born knowing it. Like that is I feel like the fun part of playing piano and learning pieces that are too difficult to sight read and just taking the time to learn it like measure by measure and practicing it little by little
Oh,
until it's
wow.
just in your head. Yeah.
Wow. So you practice to the point that you don't read the music, or do you don't read at all? Do
Well,
you
some
play by ear?
I can definitely have some pieces that I can play by memory, for
Wow.
sure. But no, it's not a lot. It's I find like even some of my most difficult pieces that
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
can play by heart because it took me so long to learn
Wow.
it, and it's there's this one piece I play that I try to practice almost every day. It's called "Big My Secret" by Michael Nyman, and I remember learning that as a teenager and just doing it like practicing one measure over and over and
Wow.
over again, and then the next one, and then the next one, and then it's like and then stringing them together until it finally feels like a piece of music. Yeah.
What do you feel like that piece of music evokes in you? Like what is it about?
That piece in particular, I played it at my aunt's funeral when I was
Mm.
19 or 18.
The one who was
Uh,
a part of the theater company?
No, my aunt was a doctor, who I lived with for a while when I was
Oh,
living in Michigan.
wow.
So
Okay.
I played at her funeral, and it's always been, and it's from the movie The Piano with Holly Hunter,
Wow.
which is one of my favorite movies, one of my favorite scores, and I remember being 17 and learning the whole getting my dad to buy me that score and learning the whole thing. And it's not an easy score.
Wow.
And it's always kind of been a part of me. And then these decades that I haven't really been playing piano, now getting back into it, it's kind of like I know I can't play it like how I could at 18, but it's
Hmm.
nice to almost be there again. Yeah.
Hmm. That's beautiful. That's so cool. I love that you play piano, and I love that part of your artistic practice sounds like it is for you in the similar way that you talked about, like your childhood being, going watching these movies, completing them, but also starting the piano, and it was for yourself, and like your mom like kind of push you, go outside, go play with people,
Yeah.
you know. So so tell me, then what do you find in terms of like, this like kind of s- this evocative power that music has, and that storytelling, or that books and that movies have had on you? What do you feel like your mission, or what drives you today? How does it how does it take shape in the way that you see yourself as a casting director in the world?
in terms of music, or just kind of being an artistic creative person.
Yeah, because you are an artist. Like, I think that's like a thing that a lot of actors sometimes forget. It's not just a job interview person. You guys are artists. You guys are collaborating. And like you said, we're on the same team. You're the casting director. You're part of the cast in that sense too. You're the initial contact. You're the people that allow for so many people to be seen and have that opportunity, but also you're allowing the director not to be like bogged down by having to choose between 300 people, by you being sort of that intermediary between that. So tell me, like, what do you find, what do you want to bring to the world as a casting director, or as an artist, as a person?
I think as a casting director, it's I try to bring authenticity. I try to bring originality. I try to present to my directors and producers, people that they may have not considered, uh,
Mm,
or performances and choices that they didn't think of. Right? Like I like being part of that process, and honing in on talent and specific ones, right? Like,
mm,
sometimes you just see somebody and you're like, maybe it's not for this, but there's something there, and
mm,
then years later you find something for them, or you see them on TV doing exactly what they should be doing. So
mm,
I hope that as new casting directors emerge, that the the wall between actors and us gets demolished, and it's a much more collaborative process than it's
mm,
been in the 80s and 90s, with the
mm.
old guard. Yeah.
Mhm. I love that. That's beautiful. Let's demolish those walls. Thank you so much. I wish I could demolish the wall between my silent viewers and you, and get them to ask questions, but they have chosen to remain silent for tonight. But hey,
Okay.
I am so grateful for you going deep into this interview with me. So anybody listening now, not live, but you're listening now or watching now on YouTube, or listening on whatever podcast platform, remember to subscribe, listen, like, comment, ask questions. Plop them in the comments, and myself or Sergio Alvarado will do our absolute best to answer your questions. Like he said, we're trying to demolish the walls and get these conversations flowing so that we can create better and better art. Am I right? Am I right? I think I'm right, right? Yeah, he's nodding. Great. Yeah, man. Thank you so much. I really, really deeply appreciate you coming on and going so deep and telling us a little bit about your life. I think it's hopefully it helps people get to know who you are and continue making you more and more approachable. And please let us know where the viewers and listeners can find you on the socials, or where they can maybe go for looking for castings or your projects
Yeah.
that are out. Please feel free to plug away.
Yeah, my main social is Instagram, where I'm the dot brunch store. I do an Ask Me Anything almost like once a week, so uh,
Mm.
you don't have to wait for one of those to ask me something, but I do try to do those once a week, where actors can ask me anything about casting and auditions. Latest things that are available for streaming. On the reality side, please watch Project Runway Canada on Crave, and on the scripted side, True Haunting on Netflix. Both projects that mean a lot to me, and that I love and I'm very proud of. So check them out.
Thank you so much. And just curious for those who are curious about the Ask Me Anythings, when do you usually do those? Is there a certain day of the week, a certain time?
No, it's a day where I'm feeling not so
I
busy, and then I'll
love it.
just
I love it.
find
You're
a link.
like,
Yeah,
today's the day.
yeah.
So
I only have
stay
5 meetings
tuned.
instead of 8, so I'll do an Ask Me
I'll
Anything.
do and ask me anything. It's a spur of the moment kind of thing. I love that. So yeah,
Yeah.
follow him. Make sure you check in on those ask me anythings, because you've given me a one-on-one ask me anything, and I really appreciate that. Honestly, Sergio, it was absolutely such a pleasure to have this
Thank
deep
you. Thank you for
one-on-one with
inviting
you.
me and having me on.
Anytime, man. And I always end it with the and scene, but I think since we're filming TV, we could do a and
Cut.
cut. There we go.